Almost a year ago, I made a video covering Paladins vs Overwatch, and in that video, I said some pretty stupid things. Overwatch is the first game I played that's able to fit both good and real into a map. What? But now, almost 364 days later, that video was a day off, I know, I've crawled back. Now, back when I made that video, both games were in a time of epic change. And while they were changing and going through some massive stages, with Paladins pushing forward and remodeling maps and making awesome champions, and Overwatch in one of the worst situations a video gaming company could be in, they were also struggling. Struggling a lot to hold on to what little players and attention they had left. But a lot has happened over the course of 2022, and where we are today is a completely different story. So stick with me as we dive into these very different worlds, and my hope is, by the end of the video, you'll have everything you need to know and more to decide for yourself which game is better, Paladins versus Overwatch. Can we get like one more of those like worm things? Over the course of roughly mid-2021 and well into 22, both games were struggling. That is a fact. Paladins on one side was actually not only putting in effort, but also even seeing minor results from their work. While they had tried adding a new and interesting champion, as after Corvus all the champions started getting super unique, and adding a huge battle pass wasn't saving them, they moved their focus to something else. They started making partnerships with other companies, more specifically, those companies' products. They recently made a cool crossover event with Genlock and Ruby. It's not like the biggest thing in the world, but it shows that Hi Rez, with all their problems, which I won't get into here, are genuinely trying to not only keep, but bring some life to the game. Overwatch, on the other hand, good lord. Number 1. Lead designer, the whole team leaves right before Overwatch 2 announcement. Number 2. Overwatch 2 is going to be 5v5. People were not happy about that one. Number 3. Overwatch 2 was rescheduled so many times leading up to its launch. Number 4. No CC. Once again, we had some planetary wars over that one. Number 5. Activision Blizzard and the whole sexual harassment thing. So, I hope I summed the whole situation up. Basically, both games were in a mess, to varying degrees of course, but Paladins was actually trying to make progress. Oh, and believe me, Blizzard was trying to save their game too, and also try to save their company's reputation, but in that situation, that wasn't happening anytime soon. And Overwatch just kinda died away. Now, the numbers for Overwatch started dropping way before any of this, and man, I just wish I knew someone who had a video talking about why Overwatch died. Oh yeah, me. And also, just to get this off my back, I am setting out to make an unbiased video. I have played many hours of both games and genuinely love them both. And while I will go hard on both of the games at varying times in the video, I love them. And now, with that out of the way, shall we promptly dive into this video? Customization is one of the most important parts of an online multiplayer game. When you're playing the same maps with the same characters with the same game modes for hours and hours, things can, understandably, get boring. But customization swings in to save the day, or at least sweep up the mess. Customization is important, especially in this kind of game, but it doesn't just fix everything. I can make a good argument around updates being the real hero, but that's a topic for another time. Now, I'm sure that you already have some knowledge of both of these games. If you know how one game works, then you've already got the basics of the other. So I'll try to get this down simply. The customization in Paladins is amazing. On top of the game getting a new character every 2 to 3 months, you can, with the customization in hand, take any character you like and turn them into someone you're not only comfortable with, but you're also a beast at. With cards being able to influence and tweak abilities, allowing you to get the champion you want. It's genuinely awesome. On top of that, when you start a match, you can pick a talent, which is able to make more drastic changes to a champion's stats. And then you have the option to purchase items with helps with base stats, like a slight boost in health and fast reload speed, and you get the point. And to this day, I believe that I hold the record for the fastest reload time in Paladins history. I also just so happen to have a video allowing you to hold that same record. Just saying. Overwatch, on the other hand, falls a bit short. I talked about this in my video last year, but we're not talking about Overwatch anymore. The customization in Overwatch 2 has taken a step forward, with the recent addition of little buddy things like charms, or like these little guys that hang on your weapon and stuff. We have these now, so, you know, Overwatch 2 has much better customization. Okay, in all seriousness, I believe it's best to think about the addition of buddies, or whatever, as a first step for Overwatch 2. Like, there might be more customization coming soon. Oh my goodness, really? Hey dude, what's going on? You fighting like bad guys or something? No. Okay, what's going on then? Like, what do you need? Answers. Okay, like, what? Are they subscribed? Who? The people watching. Subscribe really quickly, do it. Yes, they're all subscribed. Good. I'll be watching. Just subscribe. Now, in my last video, I got loaded with positivity and great wait a second. I'm so sorry, wrong script. I was bombarded with the fury of the underworld, aka the wrath of the Paladins community, when I last talked about maps. Which leads me to think that I didn't word it correctly, or maybe it was the way I said it, or maybe just my charm was so distracting. So this time around, I'll explain it a little better, I guess. The maps in both games are beautiful. Jaguar Falls and Hanamura are, in my mind, simply stunning, game modes aside. But, get ready, I find a kind of specialness in the Overwatch 2 maps, because they were able to both make a map that's a good multiplayer battleground, and it could also exist in real life. I'll explain. Most of the maps in Paladins work great as a multiplayer map, but most of them just wouldn't work in real life. People, a civilization, couldn't function in these maps. Now, if you were to drop a bunch of people in an Overwatch 2 map, then you would see a far higher survival rate. Now, does this mean anything for these maps? Nope. Does this mean that Paladins isn't as good? Nope. I'm simply saying that I find a kind of specialness in the fact that not only are Overwatch 2 maps, for the most part, work great as multiplayer battlefields, but also could work in real life. The fact that it's closer to reality is special. So, feel free to disagree, but I hope I've made some sense this time. The maps in both games are great. I will argue that Paladins has very, and I mean very, symmetrical maps. Like, if it weren't for the lighting and some random plants just laying around, it would be almost perfectly symmetrical. Now, this can be due to Overwatch 2 having different game modes that simply wouldn't work without asymmetrical maps, but that ain't an excuse for Paladins, now is it? Ranked is an interesting topic. Now, there are many things that drive us into playing ranked. Sometimes it can be the reward for reaching a certain rank, maybe it's that you're so good that the game is only fun with people on your skill level, or just the bragging rights. But in the end, there are many reasons. Now, ranked is, understandably, different from the regular game modes. It has to be, especially the higher you get, but there are right things to change in ranked, and there are wrong things. In Overwatch 2, ranked is very simple. You pick your hero and jump right into the match. Though there are some complications when it comes to the score for each team, but it's pretty simple to understand and you'll just get the hang of it eventually. Paladins, on the other hand, is just a drag. I won't get into queue times here because it's not really something they can change, but Paladins. Yikes. There's only one reason I don't play ranked in Paladins. I play ranked in Overwatch 2, even with the toxicity. So it's not that, it's the process. In Paladins, it's a nightmare. It's such a long process of banning champions, one team at a time, picking champions, one team at a time, swapping champions, customizing champions, launching, loading, and then finally you get to go. It's such a long, grueling, scary, terrifying mess that I just stick with quick play. So yeah, we have some things to fix there. The lore is one of the most interesting parts of a game. It has so much room to create such a special world. It gives the games the opportunity to, even though they might share the same gameplay style as hundreds of other games out there, shine in a saturated environment. I can make a good argument that the lore in both games, Paladins and Overwatch 2, is boring and seen before. In Paladins, there's this kind of crystal that holds great power, but they can't control the power, so it's very dangerous. The magistrate of the land wants to use it, and a bunch of other people don't. So we get bad guys and good guys. It's pretty simple fantasy storyline. The lore in Overwatch 2 is robots gain sentience. Yep, goodness gracious. So a team of heroes has to rise up and fight back the robots, and over the years, after the war, the team's fame and attention fades, and they all fade into history, save a couple of them who are still fighting other battles. And for Overwatch 2, basically the world's needed the heroes again so they come back. Both are simple and definitely seen before, but I prefer to say simple yet effective, as both games' lores work. We've all had that match. Someone on the enemy team is playing a really annoying character and just keeps destroying you and your team. Chances are that character had a bunch of CC, or was just annoying. That works too. CC is also known as crowd control, or stuff that stuns, moves, affects, and is annoying to you. In Paladins, there is so much CC that I honestly discover a new one every time I read the list. And said list is the equivalent of my mom's real shopping list after she convinces me to come to the store by saying it's only like 2 things. Everybody in Paladins has some kind of CC, like it's just so much. Being a tank, especially Yagoroth, is such a pain up the butt when even a simple healer can not only stun you, but set you up perfectly to get wiped off the map and sent to Kingdom Come faster than you can subscribe to this channel. It's just so annoying, man, and I know that you can buy items to reduce the effectiveness. Yes, I've played the game, but I don't want to have to, you know? In Overwatch 2, they cleaned this problem right up. There was a lot of worrying and complaining over the fact that Overwatch 2 would be, for the most part, CC free when we got this news a year ago. And you know what? It works really well. Like, it's very clean. Tanks don't feel like a burden to play as, so though they tweaked a lot of the heroes, it works very well in the end. Quality is very important. You know when you're playing a cheap butt game, and you know when you're playing a rich butt game. Trust me, you know. To state the obvious, and to get this chapter wrapped up quickly, which is impossible, Paladins quality falls leagues behind Overwatch 2. Now you can say, well, it's Blizzard, and they're bigger, and Hi Rez is smaller. Is Hi Rez smaller? Yes. Is Blizzard bigger? Yes. Does this matter? Not really. Hi Rez, trust me, makes a lot of money off of their games. I could make a solid argument that it is next to impossible to get any cosmetics in Realm Royale without buying up. Hi Rez makes money. They have a team capable of fixing the game. If not, they can just hire it. There's not a lot of excuses they can pull out of their butt now. It's been years of not only me, but many other people begging, if you will, Hi Rez to just fix their game. I've had bugs not only ruin entire matches for me, but force me to, mid-game, close the game and reopen it. It's a nightmare. Some of these people are Z1 Unknown, who I would argue to be the most valid Paladins player to ever walk the earth. So it's not just me. And guys, if we don't go hard on Hi Rez, then we'll never get the game we want and know we could have. We've tried being nice, and the game is still an infestation. Wow, I sound like a philosopher. Have they made progress? Yes. Instead of making characters who are cool, but ultimately not the best for kids to even be around, focus on the bugs. And the champions I'm talking about is like every female in the game / this ghost girl. I'd certainly not want my kids playing as this character with all the voodoo stabbing stuff. Like, goodness gracious, guys, really? And if you think I'm going hard on Paladins, then let's turn our attention to Overwatch 2, shall we? Blizzard has turned this game into a testing ground for greedy, money-hungry decisions that solely and mainly benefit Blizzard. Everything that you need to grind for is almost impossible to get. It's much harder to buy stuff with in-game currency without buying said currency. And the whole time, Blizzard is just whispering in your ear, you can always buy up. Is the gameplay affected by it? Not really. It still sucks though. Now, there's a lot I can say about the companies behind these games. Blizzard is obvious. Hi Rez, though, it's interesting. While they are finding and exploring new ways to bring interest and attention to Paladins, I feel like they're just skipping over the most obvious and easiest first step. Fixing the game. Hi Rez gets a lot out of the game. They really do. With skins that are genuinely some of, if not the best in any game I've played, Apex aside, they pour into this game and they receive from this game. But they're not pouring the most simplest thing, money or care in a way. Now, I'm kind of going off of what Z1 Unknown had said, but I had the exact same thought for a long time. They're just not putting anything genuine into the game, at least a lot less than what they get from it. And I know the main part of making a game is getting money from it, but you can still use some of that money to boost the game. It doesn't feel like they are. Now, will it fix the player count problems? Slightly. Blizzard. I believe that's all I need to say at this point. I've got a couple of videos coming up very soon that will tie into the topic we're about to cover. Blizzard is currently leading the way for the next stage of video games. Blizzard, especially with the newfound fame of Overwatch 2, is very influential right now. And with their greedy new decisions with Overwatch 2, it's only a matter of time before we enter a new era of video games. And it doesn't look good. So while I can say Hi Rez isn't genuinely putting back into the game that gives them so much, Blizzard might just take the whole boat down with them. I've got videos coming up on said boat very soon. Simply put, Overwatch 2 has the upper hand. That's a fact. And I fear for Paladins, because I really do love and care for the game. I fear that it just doesn't have a chance now. Overwatch 2 is a higher quality game with loads of characters coming out at roughly the same amount of time that Hi Rez takes. It's free to play for everybody on Earth, and it's less space on your hard drive. Just saying. Whereas before, people who played Paladins because it was Paladins or they really like that kind of game, now the people who play Paladins are people who play Paladins because it's Paladins. There's not much room for people who like that kind of game to play Paladins when you have a just as accessible, higher quality, regularly updated, beautiful, tons of game modes, customization, and awesome new heroes dropping all the time game right next to Paladins. So I fear for the game, and I don't really know what I would do in said situation, but alas, all things must come to an end. Do you know a game that's not in a bad situation? A game that's got the entire world hyped up for it with no worries whatsoever? I do. Elden Ring. Elden Ring is the first game God himself personally helped in, because this is the greatest game ever made. And if you don't subscribe, and I mean right now, then these little guys will be outside of your front lawn singing your least favorite song all night long. Just subscribe. So, what do you think? I love both games, and have a lot of experience with both of them, but we need to go hard if we want to get something out of them. So in the end, while it sounds like I'm being mean, I want what we all want, a polished, beautiful Paladins, and a less greedy Blizzard behind Overwatch 2. If you have any thoughts or ideas, feel absolutely free to drop them down below. If you have a potential method for possibly saving Paladins with the rise of a free Overwatch, I would be certainly interested to read that one. And what do you guys think of my new fit? I know, stinking awesome. Melina's even got some shades now, would you look at that? Season 2 has officially launched. It's been a long journey. I've been working for months on this stinking project, but we are here. I'm more hyped than ever, and we got more bangers coming up very soon, because trust me, this isn't the end. If this is your first video you've watched of mine, I recommend just checking out some other stuff I got on my channel, because I assure you, I'm bringing you fun every stinking week. I love you guys. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and remember, life is short. Play great games. Machine, one of the first places I would travel to would be the early days of Overwatch, along with many other places. Dude, you're gonna be famous. Yup. There was something magical about those times, or at least when I started playing it in 2020. I know, I know. Starting my long journey to become the greatest Doomfist player in the world, trying all these new and interesting characters out for the first time after years of watching other people playing as them. It truly